I've decided to do this video in English just because it feels important that as many people as possible can receive this message and benefit from it. I actually started making this video for my children. I wanted them to see me and their dad's perspective on these 3 years because these years have revealed things and taught me so much that I didn't know about before, but that I really want my kids to know about. So, in the middle of this, I realized this isn't only for my children to learn from, this is for every child in every nation across the globe. Or, in fact, for everyone, no matter your age. Because I truly believe that we could use some reflecting on these years and ask ourselves, what really happened? What is it we've been through? And start asking some questions. So feel free to share this video with your children, your family and friends, colleagues, neighbors. I truly believe that everybody needs to see this. I hope you enjoy it.
Girls, I want to tell you a story. And this is maybe not the most uplifting one, but it is the most important one I'll ever tell you. So I really need you to pay attention to this one. You were born here, to this place we call Earth, at a very special time. You know how me, your mom, with a holistic and spiritual way of looking at life, does my best to make all of our food from scratch, bake our bread, and grow our own vegetables. I let you run around naked in the sun while your friends are covered in UV clothes and sunscreen. I give you herbs, vitamins, and probiotics instead of aspirin and penicillin. How we never look at the news in our home. Instead, we look at the world through the reality right in front of us, not filtered through a screen. I encourage you to always listen within, make decisions with your heart, and not based on what others think you should do. I raise you to question, stay sharp, and sometimes just let go of everything. And how I teach you that the key to happiness is gratitude and to spread as much love and happiness around you as you can. Well, I'm about to unfold for you what happened when you had those values and the whole world went crazy. B. You were born in March in the year of 2020, right when it hit. A new deadly virus was spreading around the globe faster than anything we'd ever seen before. Pandemic was declared, and it was all over the news, on every news channel and in every newspaper every day. By now, people were really afraid. Panic started to spread. People were buying up toilet paper and baby formula, leaving the shelves in the stores empty. It sounds like a movie, right? Well, this was the reality around us. But your dad and I weren't that afraid. You know why? Instead of putting on the TV every morning and every evening, listening to the news frightening everyone day in and day out, we looked at the reality in front of us and around us. And in that reality, the real reality, people were not dying left and right. So we started getting the feeling that something about all of this wasn't right. We started following the statistics, wanted to create our own understanding of what was going on. And you know what we realized by looking into the numbers? There was no deadly virus killing people left and right. Actually, there was no pandemic at all, as it seemed. And you know the thing about numbers and statistics? They simply don't lie. But no matter how we tried to communicate this, people just thought we were crazy. When we tried to warn people that the news is making all of this seem 10,000s of times worse than it is, and encourage people to look into the statistics, they didn't seem to listen or went ahead and did the research. They trusted the news and their governments so deeply that they didn't even bother to look into other perspectives. Blinded by fear and misplaced trust, They all bought the narrative. So when they thought we were the crazy ones, we were actually the sensible ones. And you know what else we realized? We were not alone seeing through the lies. Far from alone. People all over the world were seeing through the lies and raising their voices. The news channels did their best to demonize us, calling us crazy conspiracy theorists and anti vaxxers, everything they could to keep people from listening to us. That's what someone with no arguments does. They don't debate you, they just call you names. And they came up with this phrase they call misinformation and put everything that didn't fit their narrative under that category. The thing was, though, most of the things they labeled as misinformation turned later out to be true. So, who was really spreading misinformation? Was one to ask. You know what they told us then? Our governments? That we should all get vaccinated against this so called deadly virus. Together with the big pharmaceutical companies, they presented to us a brand new vaccine technology, a gene therapy that had never been used before. And on top of that was rushed to the market with a conditional approval, skipping some of the safety trials, making it completely unsafe. Everybody on TV was practically yelling at you to take this so called vaccine. Celebrities, politicians, and other well known faces were all giving us the same message: get vaccinated. Well, of course, except those thousands of scientists and doctors who tried to speak out about the flaws in the safety trials, the alarming amount of side effects, and a whole list of other things explaining why this new gene therapy isn't safe and also not necessary. But they were all censored and or harassed, and many of them were the top scientists in the world in their fields. Again, I know it sounds like a movie, but it is not. And I just could not get my head around why were people listening more to the so-called experts making money off of this medical product than the independent doctors and scientists who were not, but in the opposite had everything to lose by speaking out. Still today, I have no idea why. But since your dad and I were following the statistics and the scientific studies closely together with all those censored scientists, we knew that there was not a deadly virus coming for us. We also knew that this new vaccine was completely unsafe. So, why would we take this rushed new gene therapy? So, we simply decided we wouldn't. We decided to rely on our own innate immune system, which they tried to totally ignore. They ignored natural immunity in a way that, if we just do not talk about natural immunity at all, maybe people will forget it exists. But your dad and I did not. You know what our governments all around the world did then? They started to indirectly force people to take these so called vaccines by what they referred to as vaccine passports. Yes, you heard right. They took away people's freedom and rights in the name of a virus that wasn't worse than a flu. People who did not have a vaccine passport were not allowed in restaurants, cinemas, churches, airports, and other facilities. They put restrictions on how to stand in line, how to sit in restaurants. They told us to wear masks covering our faces, even just to go outside for a walk. And the science didn't even support it, actually saying the opposite. Vaccine passports will not stop transmission because the vaccine doesn't stop transmission, and masks cannot either stop transmission, and that both the vaccine and the mask probably do more harm than good. So by now, it was clear there was another agenda behind all of this. People were protesting all over the world. Were these protests shown in the media, you might wonder? Well, of course not, because what if we could get the rest of the people to start questioning as well? Anyway, I know that since you've learned about history in school, you recognize these patterns from other historic events, don't you? You recognize it from fascist regimes. Well, the thing with fascism is that it works its way through the people by propaganda and fear, slowly, step by step, and determinedly. Fascism doesn't show its face. It doesn't want to be noticed. It may take different forms and shapes, but with the same consequences, taking away people's rights. And people will fall for this again and again and again. Hear me when I tell you this. We humans believe we learn from history. We don't. You know how I know that? History. So, here I am, together with millions of people all over the world who have seen through the lies. We know that the vaccines do more harm than good, actually hurting people. They cause blood clots, myocarditis, neurological dysfunction, lymphoma, affect fertility, cause miscarriage, cancer, and mess up people's immune system, leading to a bunch of different health issues. We also know that the governments, big pharma, and the mainstream news are all in bed together, and that there is so much corruption behind the scenes, hidden in the shadows, making people left unaware of its existence. But you know what the crazy part is? Some people still think we are the crazy ones for believing that. John Lennon once said, I think our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. And I'm the one insane for saying that. That's what's insane about it. I feel exactly the same way John Lennon did back then. So, girls, here's an advice on how to reveal corruption. And it's so easy, it's almost childish. Follow the money. Just follow it all the way and see where it takes you. And whenever there's a narrative that all the mainstream news tells you, ask yourself, could there be an agenda? And if so, who benefits? John Lennon knew this trick, so do we, and so will you. So here we are. We are millions of people all over the world who now know all of this. But what good is the knowledge when the rest of the people won't listen? How do you tell people that they can't trust their governments without sounding like an anarchist or a total maniac? How do you tell people that the big news channels are nothing more than a tool for propaganda, brainwashing them? How do you tell people that there is an agenda behind all of this without sounding crazy? How will we get them to listen, to see, and to wake up? It's as if they can't handle the thought of their governments not working in their best interest. They refuse to accept the idea that money, power, and agendas prioritize over people's health. And yet, this has been going on since the dawn of history. And people do know that if they just zoom out for a moment. It's time. It's time for all of us to admit to ourselves that we got played, got fooled, and just see the truth for what it is, so that we can start create something better. And so I ask myself, what do I do? Should I just let it go? Let people mind their own business, even if it means that people will get hurt? But how can I just go back to living my normal life when I know what I know? Because it would certainly be more simple to just remain silent and fall in line. But then I look you two in the eyes, knowing that if I don't speak my mind, I have no idea what kind of future you will grow up in. And who the hell am I if I don't speak my truth? What good is my voice if I don't use it? What is the meaning of anything if we don't stand up for what is right? And you might wonder, how did they manage to do this? How did they get people on board? Well, by propaganda and the two oldest tricks in the book, fear and compassion. First, they got people really afraid, afraid for their lives and for the lives of their loved ones. And then, when people are afraid, we lose the ability to think rationally, and we tend to seek strong leadership telling us what to do. And then they used compassion and weaponized it, telling people that they have to get vaccinated, if not for themselves, for their neighbors, grandparents, and for the society as a whole. And that is the beauty of it, that it was gives me so much hope. If people took an untested, unsafe medical product that our governments lied about because they thought it was the best thing to do for someone else, imagine what we could do in this world if we put that compassion together with the knowledge of the lies, corruption, and government's agendas. We could actually start to create a world that is better for everyone. And that is exactly what's happening right now. It's a movement. People are waking up more and more each day. They try really hard to hide this from the public, trying to censor the truth for coming out, but they just can't keep up. That's the thing about lies, you can't keep them up forever. So I have so much hope for you girls, more than I ever thought I would have. I want to finish this story with a little reminder because, girls, if there is something I really want you to take away from this story, it is this. Don't just do what everybody does or think you should do. Don't be the dead fish following the stream. Question, read, listen to different opinions and perspectives. Zoom out, see the bigger picture. Ask yourself if there is someone who benefits from the situation or the narrative, and then create your understanding. And always, always question your government. That's how a democracy works. In fact, that's the only way it does work. And if your government forces you to take a medical product or put a mask to cover your face or start censoring people, you know that's when something ain't right and you speak your mind. I know that this hasn't been the most uplifting bedtime story, but it is an important one. And although all I want for you is to enjoy life, be kids, be happy and free, I also want you to know about this so you don't fall for the same tricks when you're old enough to understand all of this. How this story ends remains to be seen. It is up to me, your dad, and all of those millions of awakened people around the world. But I have this feeling it's going to be magnificent.